Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today to learn more about our recently released 4 C's of Creative Effectiveness. Just a note, as you settle in before we start, please use the audio setting button in the bottom left corner to adjust your audio options or open this meeting directly in Zoom using the link below. We're really excited for you to all be joining us today. My name is Nick Piggott. I'll be one of your hosts today. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm a member of Pinterest's Brand and Creative Solutions team based in Toronto. In addition to me today, you'll also hear from a few other members of our project team. Good afternoon, Sahar.
Hey Nick, and hi everyone else. My name is Sehar Mahmood. I'm a senior program manager in the Brand and Creative Solutions team, and I'm joining you today from London. Hey Dagmara.
Hi Sahar, and hi everyone. My name is Dagmara Rechka. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a partnerships producer at the Brand and Creative Solutions team over at Pinterest. And I'm going to hand over to a very special guest, Greg. Hello.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Greg Cabrera. I'm an executive creative director with an Accenture Song located in Seattle, Washington, and my pronouns are he, him. So nice to be here.
Thank you for joining us all today. Wherever you may be dialing in from, it's really exciting to get a chance to speak to all of you, and really excited about the content that we have prepared. Pinterest is the home of inspiration. Every month, 518 million people turn to the platform to discover new ideas that are right for them. And they're not here to passively scroll. They're here with purpose, to plan and find inspiration and ideas to live their best life. Now, to capture the attention of this high commercial intent audience and make sure your brand stands out, a solid creative strategy can really help. So today, we will dive into our latest and most robust creative study to date, designed to help you connect with Pinterest's vast audience and drive incremental results for your brand. We've got a lot to cover today, and here's an overview of what we'll do. In a moment, I will hand it off to Sahar, who will cover a brief refresher on Pinterest and what makes the platform unique. We will share an overview of how we approached our creative research and our framework. We will introduce our creative framework, the Pinterest's 4 C's of Creative Effectiveness, and review the 4 key components of it: context, content, craft, and color. And then finally, we will explore on how you can implement the 4 C's of Creative Effectiveness into your day-to-day creative process through practical tips and use cases. We've got lots to cover, so let's jump in just a sec. Throughout today's session, though, if you do have questions, please use the Q&A tab that should be just down at the bottom of your screen here, and we'll make sure that we have some time at the end of the session to answer them. With that, Sahar, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Great. Thanks, Nick. So let's dive in and kick off by discussing how it's different here at Pinterest. Okay, so Pinterest is a visual discovery platform where people come to see, save, and shop for the best ideas. Whether that's planning an outfit, trying a new beauty ritual, renovating a home, or discovering a new recipe, Pinterest is where people come to see new ideas, to save them to boards, and to take actions on the ones they love. And that is why inspiring creatives are essential to fuel this journey. So, ads on Pinterest do not disrupt the user experience, they add to it. People arrive on Pinterest with intent. They want to discover a new brand and products, and they're increasingly shopping for what they find. From laid-back browsing and unbranded searches to planning their next big event, inspiration can literally strike at any moment in the exploration process. And when it does, our robust suite of ad solutions can help your brand resonate by streamlining the path from searching to shopping with relevant, in-the-moment ad formats that feel like real content. By following the creative recommendations in the guide that we'll be walking through today, you can optimize your opportunity to resonate across the entire user experience on Pinterest and help drive meaningful brand results too. And of course, brands come in here and are important. Ads on Pinterest play an important role in the overall content experience on the platform, and they can help someone take action on an idea as they're inspired, whether it's big or small. So I want to take a moment to highlight one key difference between Pinterest and other social platforms, the role that ads play in the experience. And many of you who use Pinterest and other platforms have probably felt this yourself. So while social feeds on other ones, ads can be an interruption between the content that you want to view and the ad. With video platforms, ads literally keep you from the content you're trying to watch. So if you're catching up with content from friends and family, the ad is interrupting that experience. On Pinterest, we skew heavily towards a commercial journey. That means that ads are often the content that users are actually seeking. This could be that perfect burgundy jacket or the coffee table that matches your new living room. Ads can unlock higher engagement because on Pinterest, ads are content. And therefore, it's important here than anywhere else to ensure that we're helping brands produce inspiring ads for our pinners. So when it comes to your campaigns, good creative is a performance multiplier, full stop. It's the difference between an ad that blends into the background and then one that captures the attention of engaged viewers and helps drive meaningful results. High quality creative taps into audiences' emotions, making your brand more memorable and impactful. However, achieving this level of creative excellence isn't without its challenges. So let's look at some of the biggest hurdles advertisers face and how you can overcome them. So the advertising industry currently faces dual challenges of driving meaningful results whilst navigating an increasingly complex, multi-channeled media landscape. It's more complex now than ever before. Advertisers are under pressure to achieve more with fewer resources. And what we're aiming to do today is to demonstrate how Pinterest's unique value can be leveraged without adding complexity by showcasing how resonant creative can act as a true business multiplier, again, without that added layer of complexity. So we're now going to take a moment and jump into a fun poll. So we'd love to get your feedback on this question. How important is it for your brand to drive efficient results with your advertising efforts? You can see the options on the right-hand side, and you should have a pop-up on your screen where you can make your answer. We'll give everyone a few seconds to make your choices. Okay, let's see the results. Amazing. So as expected, this is extremely important to this audience, and hopefully a lot of the guidelines that we walk through today can help with this. A secondary question. So let's shift our focus slightly to Pinterest. How familiar are you with developing creative strategy specifically for Pinterest? And again, you can see your options on the screen. Perfect. We'll end the poll there and see the results. Amazing. So here we have a bit of a variation. We have some experts with us today. We have some folks who have somewhat dabbled in it and are familiar, but we also have a chunk of folks who would like to know more. And the great news is a lot of the guidelines that we walk through today can help you start your creative strategy or continue your creative strategy on the platform. So we'll dive back into the content now. Okay, let's move on to the exciting part, the research framework that built the 4 C's of creative effectiveness. So we set out to answer the following question. What are the top objective creative attributes that contribute to positive campaign outcomes on Pinterest? So that was our hypotheses. In our approach, we wanted to harness the power of AI to inform the creative process, by no means limit it. As a result, we designed an approach that tapped into the power of machine learning, but also human validation. And the result, our deepest creative study yet. Pinterest partnered with Accenture Song, the world's largest tech-powered creative group, and worked with their data scientists and creative experts. We developed and trained over 80 AI models, which processed 34,000 Pinterest video ads, 85,000 static ads across our 10 major verticals, from home decor to fashion to grocery to beauty to food and drink, alcohol, auto, finserv, tech and telco, and travel. The AI models identified over 340 data features that were then joined with Pinterest internal data. Pinterest internal data. And then we also looked at this across the advertising funnel. So everything from awareness to consideration to conversion as well. Then, importantly, we brought through creative leadership experts and media strategy experts to help validate the machine learning results, to help us shortlist the most relevant, applicable, and helpful for creatives. So, one final piece from myself, but a really important one. The art of creativity is definitely never a one-size-fits-all. And this is a great moment to remind everyone that the 4 C's of creative effectiveness are guidelines. They're a space to help brands play and be creative within. But we understand how brands bring their stories to life will also depend on wider factors, and we encourage brands to continue to build within this creativity. We encourage you to use the 4 key areas that we will walk through today to enhance your creative process as you develop ads for Pinterest. By no means limiting your ideas or reinforcing requirements, the 4 C's can help you bring your brand messaging together in effective performant creatives that strike the chord with Pinterest users and also help you drive brand results. So thank you for listening so far and engaging. I'm going to hand over to Nick, who's going to kick off the 4 C's.
Thanks, Sahar. And hopefully that was a helpful overview to everyone on how we approached our research. But now let's start to jump into some of the findings. What we'll take you through in this next section are some of our findings from our 4 C's of creative effectiveness. We're going to offer some deep dives into a few select creative features. And just a note as we start to go through this, the entire 4 C's of creative effectiveness guide is now available for download in English as well as French, Spanish, Portuguese, and Japanese. So as we just heard from Sahar, our research was pretty robust and thorough. When it came to the guidance, however, we want to ensure that the output of the research was really easy to understand, no matter the level of Pinterest comprehension that you or your organization might have. And then naturally, as creatives, we wanted to create a creative framework that was highly visual and easily memorable. We ultimately landed on the 4 C's of creative effectiveness, Pinterest's research-backed framework designed to help you understand the creative foundations that can help drive ad effectiveness on Pinterest. The research findings fall into the 4 C framework that you see on screen now. The 4 C's of creative effectiveness. The 4 C's stand for context, content, craft, and color. So now let's dive into each of the C's. And Dagmar, I'm going to call on you to take us through the first one.
Of course. Thanks, Nick. So the first C is context. Context category is all about, well, the context the pinner use your context in, but also the device they use the app on and the way the assets show up on the feed. So we can deep dive into one of the creative best practices here, design for mobile. Nick, could you take us through the findings, please?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the findings we found under the pillar of context was all around designing for mobile. Or said another way, designing with a vertical aspect ratio in mind. Some of you may know this. For others, this may be a fun fact, but 81% of Pinterest users access the platform on mobile devices. So designing for the mobile experience already sets your campaign message up for success. What we saw in the research data was that pins that were designed with larger vertical screen real estate fostered longer view times and higher click-through rates. Now, Greg, as a creative director, I'd love to get your thoughts on this design for mobile learning.
Absolutely, Nick. You know, it sounds deviously simple, but one of these first things we learn as creators is to know your audience. So when we did the research and with our human validation team got underway, we assessed the highest performing ads, and it was quickly apparent that those built to fully utilize the mobile specifications perform better than those who prioritize desktop-based experiences. Some reasons were quickly apparent. In some cases, we saw existing TV commercials that were shrunk down to fit mobile spec, so letterboxing and copy size made the content difficult to read. We also saw some ads that were just cropped and rearranged to fit mobile sizes, but the zoomed in nature of the material directly competed with the resolution on mobile. In addition, we also found that the majority of mobile first ads told simpler, shorter, vivid stories that grabbed attention faster and matched the user's read speed. So think mobile first. Not only is it more connective to Pinterest users, but it concentrates your brand's message better too.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, I think that that's really helpful context for everyone to keep in mind. Another thing, though, to remember is when it comes to designing for a mobile experience, there are a range of creative techniques and formats that you can try. For example, for standard pins, you can explore layouts that combine assets to make the most of your real estate coverage. You can find ways for your video to stand out using formats that guarantee to take up a lot of screen space on a mobile device, like Spotlight for Home. Or you can reach high intent audiences at the start of their search journey with a premier spotlight on search placement, which takes up approximately 50% of the mobile home screen or search screen. All right, that was context. We're now going to move to our second C. The second C stands for content. Content covers everything related to the core of the asset, the story you want to tell, and who you decide to feature in it. For a deeper dive into one of our best practices from content, Dagmar, I'm going to kick it back over to you to tell us a little bit more about Keep It Real.
Of course. Thanks, Nick. So authenticity connects. In busy feeds, ads that feel like Pinterest native content resonate, and they also drive more meaningful engagement. In our research, we actually found that ads featuring tasteful branding and simple, realistic storytelling, so up to 4 times increase in click-through rate. And here I would love to hear your thoughts, Greg, as well. Why do you think it's so important to keep it real?
Because Pinterest users keep it real. You know, Pinterest is a unique platform. It's an amazing tool that lets people discover at the speed of curiosity, with every pin a potential moment of inspiration. In this mindset, users are looking to be delighted, not sold to. And the data backs it up. In our findings, when advertisements contain clearly identifiable ad objects like obvious stock and product photography or overt branding, click-through rate and view-through rate on ads suffered. But when ads focused more on the experience and results of the product or broke conventions for the sake of artful presentation, ads had longer engagement and better metrics. So authenticity wins because you are building content to share, not just sell.
Thank you so much, Greg. I think that these are such great observations, and there are a lot of different ways to make your ad content resonate with pinners and deliver on what they are looking for. So let's have a look at a few examples. So the first one is organic feeling content that helps grounding your brand in real life and resonating with real users. You can also show how your brand fits into key moments, like in this example, holidays, to inspire users with fresh ideas. And the last thing you can do is you can elevate the everyday by connecting your brand or products to relatable moments or trends. In this example, to summer picnic time. So we have 2 C's covered. And now we are moving to the third one. In this case, the C stands for craft. The craft C zooms in on ways in which you can finesse your assets to maximize their chances to impact our pinners. And for craft, Nick, could you take us through the center the copy, please?
I would be happy to, Dagmar. Craft is really all about jumping inside the 4 walls of your pin and playing with the elements of your layout. Copy or text overlays is a common component of video or static pins on the platform, and they can help your brand build connection and relevance with an audience. What we found in the study was that where you place brand messaging within the pin really does matter. Ads that moved text away from the center saw a 5 times higher click-through rate. So let copy play the key supporting role in your static or video content, but keep your visuals front and center and move copy to the top or bottom of the space to avoid visual clutter. Greg, does this surprise you?
A little bit, yeah. But it really does make me happy as a creative because it lets us prioritize the experience. When you center the text, you are directly pulling focus from the core images and relegating visuals to the background. But when placing the majority of messaging on top or bottom, you improve the composition and the images can help validate the story you are trying to tell. In our findings, we saw a significant correlation in performance when text was placed on top of the screen, followed by when it was nearer the bottom. We also scanned text position horizontally and saw performance gains also when you move copy left or right of the center of the frame too. In other words, centered copy tends to create a traditional ad construct, which we already proved decreases performance because it feels like an ad. And our team of creative directors agreed. By decentering, you are injecting originality into the content, breaking conventions, and giving users a unique moment in their search.
Totally agree. And I really resonate with the idea of breaking conventions and originality. And I think there's a range of ways that you can add copy to promoted pins to help you effectively communicate whatever your brand's message might be. So a couple examples again of how you might do this. For one, you may place your copy onto high contrast backgrounds to dial up the readability and help your message stand out. Or you might use backgrounds or animation elements near the top or bottom of your ad space to give the copy a little bit of room to breathe. Our final C, our fourth C, stands for color. This C focuses not only on the asset's color palette, but also the way pinners can see the color on their screens. So anything to do with contrast, sharpness, and brightness as well. Dagmara, I bet you think I'm going to call on you again, and I will. Please take us through a little bit more detail on what we mean by strike a contrast.
Yeah, I had a weird suspicion that you will, Nick. So I'm here to take you through strike a contrast. Videos with too high or too low brightness levels might actually cause eye strain and reduce attention. Balancing brightness and contrast significantly enhances viewability and may help driving engagement. So when designing your assets, check if the visuals are clearly visible in both light and dark mode, and also make sure your key visual pops against the background. The extra check is worth it because our analysis found that by increasing the contrast, you could see up to 2% increase in the click-through rate. Greg, what's a creative's view here?
Well, Dagmara, in many ways, this recommendation relates to keeping it real. Videos and images depicting real life scenarios should feel natural and vivid. That's what helps build relatable moments. Videos with irregular brightness or contrast cause dissonance, causing the user's mind to become distracted while questioning the creator's quality. Conversely, well contrasted videos create a sense of depth and visual stimulation that also makes it easier to focus on the context of the video, not the delivery of it. Artful tints and filters certainly can be used to help codify or enhance the brand vibe, but use it lightly and don't challenge what our eyes can already process and perceive. Back to you, Dagmara.
Thank you. And as an extra slice of inspiration here, you can see the proof that balanced brightness and strong contrast amp up ad quality. I'm sure you can all see the clear difference between the clip in the middle and its too dark and too bright versions. And I think with this example, we are ready to conclude this section and move on to ways in which you can use our findings in practice. So I'm handing over to you, Nick.
All right, all right. That was it. That was the run through of the 4 C's of creative effectiveness. We've covered just a small set of the best practices that you can find included within the guide. There's tons more to be discovered. And we're all excited for you all to dive in, get a bit more familiar. As I mentioned at the start, there will be a survey at the end, which you can get access to the guide itself. So before we start to wrap up, we wanted to share some ways in which you can leverage the 4 C's to help you level up your creative process for your teams and your organizations. Greg, I'm going to call on you again here. I'm curious to get your take. As someone who's an executive creative director who leads creative teams for a living, what are your top use cases for a creative guide like this? And how are you thinking about the 4 C's of creative effectiveness to boost your team's creativity without bogging down internal agency process?
Yeah, Nick, it's a great question. In my mind, and with the 4 C's in mind, a creative team now has a fast track to know what works on Pinterest and where they can be more artistic. In my mind, that's smart creativity. Take briefing to start. When it comes to Pinterest, good advertising starts with good storytelling because audiences treat ads like content and are motivated to explore. So, this helps align the entire marketing team on the creative approach earlier than ever and gives creatives an insights driven head start on what kind of story to tell.
So at the briefing stage, would you say that this helps form a collective understanding of what makes effective content for the platform?
Definitely. Knowing what audiences want to see and what will drive results, everyone wins.
Right on, right on. Okay, and can you elaborate a little bit more on what you see the role of the 4 C's playing when it comes to concepting?
Yeah, when it comes to concepting, I feel like this gives you a chance to invest in originality. Pinterest users seek inspiration and novel experiences, so the 4 C's give creative teams validation to interpret the brand in exciting new ways in order to connect with new audiences. But of course, when you get into the creation of your content, the third line here, the 4 C's accelerate production to design for mobile first and simplicity, always quick to capture attention in a few seconds. That helps prioritize storyboarding and asset creation immensely.
Yeah, I think that tracks for me. So in another word, it's sort of helping inform various choices or decisions that come along in the creative process. It can help inform decisions around what content to run on Pinterest, whether that is a team building something new, a brand new asset, or something from scratch, or pulling from existing campaign assets that the brand has access to or has developed. But it also informs design and art direction choices when it comes to things like creative layout, color, and contrast. Um, Thanks for sharing that. And then one more question for you. I'm curious to hear a little bit more on the performance call out that you've added here.
Yeah, for sure. I believe thanks to this research, creatives should push for value, not just visibility. That means Pinterest users want to experience the product or brand in an authentic way, not be told about it. And knowing how to be relevant like this creates the results your business wants to see. So build confidently and quickly to deliver beautiful moments to the Pinterest audience. It's that easy.
All right, all right.
So with that, I think we are all wondering now how Pinterest can assist you with your 4 C's journey. Now that you have this 4 C's framework, you're ready to start building ad content for Pinterest that moves the needle. You can take advantage of our suite of creative and media support to help get you started. So you can connect your team directly with our creative experts for any ideation, strategy, and execution needs. We can help with everything from production support through discovering new trends and insights on the platform to A/B testing. Are you a deal partner? If yes, subsidized production benefits, including net new content creation, might also be available for you. So speak to your Pinterest representative to find out more. Okay, so this was a lot of exciting content, but I think we are unfortunately nearing the end of our webinar. So for the last time, I'm going to hand over to Nick. Nick, do you want to share some key takeaways with us, just to make sure we are all equipped to start using this research day to day?
Thanks for that, Dagmara. And yeah, I'd be happy to. So 3 takeaways that I'd love to sort of leave with everyone today as we wrap up. The first is that the 4 C's of creative effectiveness is an outcome of our most robust creative study to date. This is a creative framework that has been informed by machine learning and validation from creative professionals. And the 4 C's of Creative Effectiveness Guide is a helpful resource to anyone interested in producing advertising content on Pinterest. Number 2, the 4 C's of Creative Effectiveness is intended to inform your creative process, not limit it. The 4Cs are designed to help you level up your Pinterest game, but not restrict your creativity. Use it as a foundational guide rather than a set of rules. And lastly, start leveling up. Leverage the 4Cs to enhance your next campaign on Pinterest. Whether optimizing existing campaign assets or informing a new creative campaign from scratch, the 4Cs is a helpful creative framework. So take advantage of our Pinterest tools and our other suites of production support that Dagmara just mentioned to start creating your campaign today. All right, so we do have a couple minutes left for any live questions. Sahar, I know you've been monitoring the Q&A chat. What do we got?
Yeah, thanks, Nick. So we do have a few questions. And everyone, again, as a reminder, please just use the Q&A function if you would like to submit any others. We will not have an opportunity to go through them all, but we'll tackle a few. So I'll kick off with one that we've had come in regards to the 4Cs being applicable across all our ad formats on Pinterest. So confirming here that through the study and then in addition to this, through the human validation process, we can confirm that all of the learnings in the 4Cs can be applied to all of our ad formats on the platform, which is great news. So another question, we've actually had this come in a few times, is around how these guidelines sit amongst organic content and how they could be applicable for organic content as well. Dagmara, do you want to take this one and give us some more context?
Of course. So no organic content was actually assessed as a part of this research. However, many of these best practices we think can apply to the organic content as well. Why? Because as Sahar explained in the beginning of the webinar, with Pinterest being a visual first platform, advertiser and organic content kind of sit side by side, meaning that pinners see both types of this content very similarly. So, to kind of get inspiration or to find some tips on how to make both paid and organic content resonate with pinners, one of the examples was keep it real slide, where you could see some useful creative tips of how to create the content that will resonate both organically and through paid campaigns. And with that, maybe we can speak a tiny bit more about our audible rate, because we do mention audible and rate and sound in the 4Cs guides quite explicitly. Nick, would you like to speak a tiny bit more about this?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So, one of the learnings that we found in our 4Cs research was that videos that started with attention-grabbing audio hooked a user and engaged a user from the start, leading to longer view-through rates and engagement rates. I think this is probably a bit of an obvious conclusion, sort of just another element for the brand to wrap emotion and impact around an ad. On Pinterest, the feed itself is default sound off, but we have been exploring a number of product updates recently, including audio icons. So it's very easy once engaged with for videos to begin to play with audio. So the guidance I would recommend around a question like that is always plan to include attention-grabbing video or attention-grabbing audio, but also ensure that your video communicates its core campaign message without the use of that sound, sort of play off the duality of our user experience.
Perfect. Thanks, Nick. We've had another question come in to do with colors and how the guidelines talk to this. So within the guidelines, you will find some best practices on color. And at a high level, what we found was warmer hues performed better. So warmer colors like reds, oranges versus colder colors like blues and grays. So that is what we would recommend, and you can find more details in the guide, but of course also considering this alongside the other practices of contrast and wider features as well for you to consider. So another question we've also slightly pivoting is to do with like the creative validation process and kind of the methodology. So diving into that and providing a little bit more color. Greg, you're definitely our expert within this space. So I'd love to hear a bit more from you.
Yeah, absolutely. So the process we followed was rigorous. What we did is, in collaboration with Pinterest, we defined metrics based on media types and common objectives. We then developed a data pipeline for both the static and video ads to facilitate the model development and data processing. From there, we took the human validation team of creative directors, comms planners, and brand strategists to evaluate a set of criteria that we believe leads to good advertising. From there, we collected mass samples of existing Pinterest advertising using stratified sampling. We joined pipeline outputs with Pinterest data to create master data tables per vertical. And from there, we then built the models to perform the preliminary analysis. Some of the examples that we used in terms of an ensemble approach in order to validate these findings was random forests, linear regression, lasso, and light GBM, just to name a few. We then tuned and consolidated the models and aligned it with performance data. And then finally, once the models provided the output, we can use our human validation team to conduct a final analysis via focus groups and approvals in terms of the findings that we discovered to corroborate the findings. And that's just a little bit about how we did that.
Perfect, Greg. That was super helpful. So a
Absolutely.
few more questions. We'll probably have time for 2 or 3 more. We have one coming in on the topic of animation. So Nick, I know we cover this in the guidelines, but could you give us a bit more flavor on how animations would be recommended?
Sure. Thanks for the question. This is so cool to get live questions on some of this stuff. So animation would fall into some of the best practices within the guide, specifically around frame rate, motion, and starting off strong, I would say. So we didn't cover all of these in the session, but you'll read about these in the guide themselves. And so what I would say is what we found across, sort of across the verticals that we looked at is that ads that did a good job sort of quickly we call it starting off strong, so quickly grabbing attention, which is a bit of a reflection of this mobile world we're all living in, and sort of the flipping of a typical sort of brand or video arc to kind of start with the payoff or start with the key message at the beginning. These are all areas in which I think animation can play a really important role. So a few things I would say regarding animation, one, use it to sort of capture the user's attention, delivering a key message, eye-catching. We also saw some interesting learnings around frame rate with videos. So, keep the pace of a video quick, but not frantic. You want to continue to tell a concise story, but you also want to capture attention with that motion. And, as you saw with some of the examples today, one of the things that, for me at least, that excites me about Pinterest is it can be such a collage of various mediums. So whether you're using lifestyle imagery along with brand colors or animation elements from a campaign, you can use those together to really create something eye-catching and effective. I hope that answered a bit of the question.
Yes, great answer. Thank you, Nick. We're having quite a few of the same questions on the topic of logo and branding. Naturally, a really important topic. So, Dagmara, any thoughts here to share with the audience?
Of course. Thanks, Sahar. And, only echoing Nick, it's just so great to see such good audience participation. So thank you so much for all of your questions. So when it comes to logo and branding, let's start from the logo. So all of our legacy best practices still stand here. And we understand that from, like brand and sales lift perspective, visible branding is important. And like one thing to remember, both for logo and for like any other forms of branding itself, would be just to make sure that, the context that your branding, your logo appear on resonates with pinners, following our Keep It Real creative feature, which we, deep dived a tiny bit in during the webinar. So we advise to focus on keeping the branding tasteful, ensuring that the asset works well in this context of the wider Pinterest feed. And, Also following our research, remembering that logo should not obscure any key content. So, as we are talking about decentering the copy, we are also talking about making sure that any additional elements kind of don't take away from the focus of the visual. So, TLDR, of course, you can use logo and branding on your asset, but remember to always consider the context that they appear in.
Perfect. Beautifully said, Dagmara. Greg, it's obviously amazing to have you with us today, and we've had a really interesting question coming in, which I'd love to get your perspective on. So were any of the results or findings actually a surprise for you? So is there anything that came out through the research that challenged traditional advertiser thinking from your perspective?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. I do think that the copy was interesting, only because I think just because as we think about, capturing attention quickly, having some big bold words and being able to kind of tell the story very quickly via copy, I was thinking would be more resonant. I was surprised by that. But I do understand that being able to dive into the experience, being able to really let the visuals kind of tell the story and let you feel the experience was very unique. So yeah, I think that was kind of the most interesting surprise. But I loved how we determined that where the copy can be placed, it can still be very tasteful and not take away from the experience.
Yeah, 100%. That's a great one. And I definitely think what Nick also covered off earlier are findings around audio and how that's, can be leveraged a lot more. Personally was an interesting one as well. So coming to a close, I will answer one final one because we've had quite a few questions on this, is how this research is applicable across our different markets and is it available in different languages? So whilst the research was done against English creatives only, through kind of like the human validation process and the work that we've done since then, this is applicable across all of Pinterest markets. But the guideline itself has also been localized into Japanese, into Spanish, and into Brazilian Portuguese. So it's great that it's available in all these languages. And on this topic, I'm now going to hand back over to Nick. Nick, maybe you can provide some details on where everyone can find the guideline itself and then close us out.
For sure, for sure. Again, thank you for everyone for all your great questions. I love that everyone's curious about getting their hands on the guide. It's really easy to get the guide. A few things to say here. One, we would love if you would just take 1 minute of your time, scan the QR code that's on slide right now to complete our webinar survey. Your feedback helps us improve future webinar content from Pinterest. So please do answer, I think it's 2 or 3 questions. When you do that, you will also get exclusive access to download the full 4 C's of Creative Effectiveness guide. So, that's how you can get it. But I think that kind of brings us to the end of our time together. We're gonna wrap a little bit early, which I'm sure nobody's mad about. But I just wanted to say on behalf of the 4 of us and Pinterest, thanks for joining us today. Hopefully you feel more empowered to create engaging and effective advertising on Pinterest. Please be sure to, read through the 4 C's of Creative Effectiveness, share it with others. You can reach out to your local Pinterest contacts to discuss upcoming campaigns or visit Pinterest Academy and the Business Center site for more insights and tips. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you again for joining, and happy pinning.